Hello everyone, McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap. This time looking at my week 3 match in the PGF against Dreadful Dragonite and his Wayward Cave Garchomps. This is a NatDex league, and after a really bad week 1, I was able to rebound in week 2, score a much needed win, and move to 1-1 on the season. I am looking to continue that win streak with another victory this week and try to continue to push my way towards playoffs. So far, I've relied heavily on the performances of my Mega Mawile and my Entei, and I'm looking to get additional utility out of the remaining members of my team, namely the Landorus, who I will talk about in just a few minutes, and see if I can make some continued progress and showcase some of the fun aspects of this team. But before we dive into the match, we're going to take a look at the team he had available to him and then the pieces I brought to best address it. So he has the Dragapult, obviously one of the scariest Pokemon in the league. I had the opportunity to pick it again with the number 1 overall pick. I passed on that, as mentioned in my first video on this draft league, just because I did not like the overall cost of it. I did not like the requirement of drafting 11 Mons on top of that, and I was not successful using Dragapult in my last league. All in all, I did not consider him a high priority for me. Dreadful Dragonite was therefore able to scoop it with the second overall pick. But as you can see, his team is really top heavy as a result of his draft strategy. He has a Dragapult and a Mega Gallade and a Mamoswine and a Corviknight and a Zeraora, all really, really expensive Mons, 13 points or higher. And then the rest of his draft, he's fairly limited on the options that he has available. He gets some Incineroar with some utility, Blastoise, who can be actually a pretty potent sweeper and hazard control, decent bulky water, but he can't heal himself, and the team doesn't really have great wish support. I mean, technically Slurpuff can wish, but it's not considered a great wish support mon. And so it makes the team build he has very predictable, even if the pieces are very scary to deal with. Dragapult normally would be very scary. I have a Florges and an Umbreon, so I'm not scared of this Dragapult. I think it actually has a really bad matchup against my team overall as a result, because it can't really break through those Pokemon. Mega Glade is much scarier. I don't have a really good way of dealing with the psychic aspect of his team because I can't bring Umbreon in on it. I can't bring Florges in on it because it has a really good way of dealing with both of those. Mamoswine is really, really well checked by my Rotom. It just does not have a way to reliably 2-hit KO that. Superpower and knockoff can do lots of damage, especially if it's banded, but that comes at the cost of its speed tier, and it makes it very vulnerable to being revenge killed or set up in front of if it's a banned set. Corviknight, I'm somewhat nervous about its ability to set up and decimate, but as long as I have Entei, I can do a lot. My biggest concern with Entei is that it has to deal with the pressure of Corviknight from the pressure ability, so I need to be very cautious about how I'm using some of my moves against it. Zeraora, pretty good mon overall. I don't think it has an overly great matchup, just because if we look at my team, it doesn't really deal with Landorus very well. It doesn't really deal with Umbreon really well. It has a tough time dealing with Chestnut overall. So overall, I don't think it has a great matchup, but it's a piece he has available to him to make work with that speed tier. Uh, Incineroar, just really for intimidation support. That's all it can do. Blastoise actually has some concerns as its ability to sweep and its ability to be a strong pivot option if he needs it. Roselia, not concerned about. Slurpuff could do webs or it can go for a belly drum set. I'm very wary of belly drum sets on it. I think that has actually pretty good potency against my team overall. Crustle, not too worried about. It minimizes a 1-point mon. So very top heavy. I think most of the team build will be based upon what's available to him at the top, and so I'm going to account for that in how I prep mostly. Mega Mawile, obviously going to be pretty much max attack, some decent HP investment, and then it is speed creep to get past uninvested Incineroar with a couple extra points just for any potential creep. Sucker Punch, play rough, pretty much the only 2 attack moves I need. Substitute to sub behind a couple of things just because Blastoise may not have a good coverage move for it, or the Mamoswine may be locked into an ice move, opportunities for me to sub and get going. Or I can force Dragapult out because Dragapult can't really 1v1 a Mawile with Sucker Punch, and it knows that. So all windows I see for me to substitute on and try to get a Swords Dance in. So he's really just a good breaker, especially after one Swords Dance. Not a lot, even Corviknight can really deal with a play rough at that point. So if the opportunity presents itself, Mawile is able to take off. Landorus has a really interesting matchup here. So if you look at his team, there is a singular resist to ground that matters, and that's Corviknight, and it's not even a resistance immunity. Technically Illumise, but we're not going to really worry about a 1-point mon. Everything else takes neutral or super effective damage from Earthquake, which makes his team really, really prone to set up Sweep Landorus. I'm running Smackdown to get the Corviknight knocked onto the ground so it can be hit by Earthquake. Uh, Earthquake, because that's the only attack move I need once I smack it down. Rock Polish to go faster than everything, and then Swords Dance to hit even harder. I opt to run Soft Sand because I really only care about the Earthquake damage, so I might as well just make sure that is extra strong without having to take off some of my HP to use an attack, because I don't want to be eating Life Orb damage from Smackdowns if I can avoid that. Decent HP investment, max attack just to hit hard immediately on everything, and then speed invested to creep past Adam at Mamoswine, because I don't really want to worry too much about Jolly Mamoswine. I don't want to overly invest just to outspeed Jolly Mamoswine. That's going to require me to be a Jolly nature at that point, and I don't want to have to compete with that, as I think I have other ways to address that just fine anyway. But basically, if I can get even just a Rock Polish in, the team really starts to fall apart. He's pretty reliant on uh, Blastoise to be healthy enough to take a hit, or Mamoswine to have Ice Shard. And if he doesn't have either of those options available to him, then Landorus can just tear through the team. Rotom, Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Will-O-Wisp, Defog. Very defensively bulky to deal with the Mamoswine, so the Mamoswine doesn't have a way of really breaking me. He doesn't have great speed tiers. If we look at his speed tiers, it goes from Mamoswine at 80 all the way down to Corviknight at 67. Corviknight's not usually speed invested. Blastoise isn't usually speed invested. So his pieces that are in the comparable range to Rotom can't really deal, or aren't going to outspeed it, and aren't going to want to invest in speed generally. Mamoswine probably wants to have speed in it. I don't want to compete with Mamoswine. I'd rather just be bulkier and just shut down Mamoswine than try to outspeed it and go first. So I opt for bulk. And then Defog just to deal with some hazards, so I'm not too prone to rocks. And I believe he has something else he can deal with. Webs, if he wants to put webs up. I don't want to be dealing with webs either, specifically for Entei when I get to him. Florges, kind of opting for a setup Florges, just because his only way of dealing with Florges reliably um, is the Corviknight. And if the Corviknight goes down early in this game, or it has to be sacrificed early, because I have a lot of ways to pressure the Corviknight, then Floor just has a really easy time clicking Calm Mind and just doing massive amounts of damage. Defense to give me some bulk to survive a couple of hits from some things. I can take a couple of hits from non-banded Mamoswine, or Gallade won't be able to one-hit KO me without a boost. So it gives me a little bit of extra bulk to work with, so I can make sure I get a hit off. Umbreon, very defensively bulky. The defense and special defense spread is done in a way in which there is no singular Shell Smash set from the Blastoise that can 2-hit KO the Umbreon. All Shell Smash sets are 3-hit KOs. And so that gives me the best possible protection from whatever Shell Smash set it could be, whether it's physical or special. And then Foul Play just does massive amounts of damage to a Blastoise when it starts Shell Smashing, especially if it's not a White Herb or if it tries to do it twice. So that helps me there. Foul Play also does well against Gallade on a predicted switch in. Zeraora doesn't like it. Mamoswine doesn't like it. The team really does not like Foul Play, and so that does a lot for me. And then Baton Pass, just so I can wish and then Baton Pass into the pieces that need it. If I need to get Intimidates into things, I can wish and then Baton Pass into like a Landorus or a Mawile, just to slap extra bits of Intimidate on him, just to do more damage. And then finally, the Entei to round out the team. Speed invested in a way where it outspeeds Mamoswine. So I am a Scarf, and I will always go faster than the Mamoswine, even if it is Scarfed, which means I get to Sacred Fire first, which can let me fish for burns. Stone Edge is nice to address a couple of things. I think it was the Incineroar mostly is what it's there for. Crunch for the Dragapult if I need it, and then Flare Blitz because, as I mentioned earlier, Sacred Fire only has 8 PP. If for whatever reason the Corviknight is really bulky and isn't going down to the Sacred Fires as quickly as I would like, I'm not going to lose all my ability to do fire damage, and so I run Flare Blitz as just an extra bit of fire coverage when I need it. But yeah, that's the team. I ran Inner Focus. I believe he has an Intimidator. Yeah, he has Incineroar, so I ran Inner Focus over Pressure just so that I don't have to deal with Intimidate spam on Entei in case that shows up. But that's what my game plan is. Largely, it's to maximize Landorus's ability to come in and just sweep. Rotom and Umbreon are both used as ways to pivot into Landorus or Mawile, occasionally Entei. And then Florges has an ability to address the Dragapult while also being able to threaten it on its own offensively if I'm able to address the Corviknight early. So we're going to dive into this match. I'll break it down as things happen. I do want to start by looking at the team preview. I don't usually spend a lot of time on this, but the Slurpuff does show up, and that catches me by surprise immediately. I'm aware of the danger that the Slurpuff poses to my team, specifically a belly drum set. I'm very nervous that it could cause me a lot of concern if it's able to successfully belly drum on turn one. I need to carefully consider my options on how I lead off. In hindsight, I think Mega Mawile was the safest lead. I should have gone for that immediately on the predicted Slurpuff lead. I'm instead going to opt for Rotom Wash, which isn't a bad lead. And I know if the Slurpuff leads, I can click Will-O-Wisp on it. Or if it's just a web set, then Rotom can also address that. So I go for Rotom because I feel like it's the safest one. And if I get the burn on it, I feel like I'm in a position to survive the belly drum. And so Slurpuff does in fact lead, and I go for the Rotom lead. I'm going to Will-O-Wisp on turn one just in case it tries to belly drum, which it does, because I feel at that point I'm in a position to survive whatever attack it wants to do. Unfortunately, and this is really good kudos to Dreadful Dragonite, he runs Facade on his Slurpuff so that I can't actually get around that burn. And even though I'm pretty much fully defensively invested in this Rotom, it still gets one hit KO'd by the Slurpuff, just to reemphasize how powerful that is. Really unfortunate start for me. Rotom had a really, really important role in this match as a strong answer to Mamoswine, and so losing that early makes me extra prone to banded Mamoswines, and I'm going to be contesting with that for the rest of the game. I come with Mawile on turn 2 because I know he doesn't really have a great way of one-hit KOing the Mawile, and I'm able to absorb that attack and one-hit KO it with Play Rough, so that gets it out of play, takes away some of the concern it was offering. Um, Mamoswine comes in. The big thing about this calc is that this confirms to me that it's not a banded Mamoswine, probably a Scarf Mamoswine, since you're not going to see any Life Orb be activated here. Just gives me a lot of protection from that later this game, because I know now that my Umbreon can answer that, barring some shenanigans with Icicle Crest flinches, I can deal with this Mamoswine now, which was really my concern after losing Rotom so early in this match. The other downside of losing Rotom early, though, is that I'm more prone to the Corviknight now. It bulks up, which makes me not want to bring in my Landorus as an answer because I'm no longer feeling reliable on that. So I come in with Entei, scares it out. I get the burn onto the Blastoise, which prevents it from getting health back, which is nice for me. He goes for a Toxic on my Florges. As I've already shown, I'm carrying Aromatherapy, so I'm not really scared of what this Blastoise is trying to do. The Flip Turn does negligible amounts of damage. He comes in with the Gallade. I don't really have a good switch out from Gallade. There's just nothing I can really do about that. I mean, I could come in with Landorus, but I don't outspeed, and I know it has access to Triple Axle. Not a good situation for Landorus. I've lost the Intimidate on the Mawile because I've Mega Evolved. Neither of my other options really want to come in on it, so my best answer really is just to click Moonblast and see what happens. He opts to try to get set up, which is really good for me because now I get a free Moonblast to really shut him down. The Zen Headbutt Biss is really, really unfortunate for him. You know, it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't make or break this game, because even if he's able to KO Florges here, and that Zen Headbutt almost certainly would have KO'd my Florges, I still have Umbreon as an answer to his Dragapult and his Mamoswine, so I'm not overly nervous that I would have lost this game if the Zen Headbutt had hit. It's unfortunate for him it doesn't, because now his Mega Glade is gone. My Florges is fully healthy. It just puts him in a really bad spot. He's going to do something which I think is a mistake in hindsight. I think he really should have came in with Mamoswine here over the Corviknight, because the Corviknight just doesn't really have a way to pressure the Entei. So Entei gets to come in for free. Corviknight's going to bulk up again. There's no momentum gained by that. I'm just going to click Sacred Fire again because that's my safest option to click. The Blastoise is going to come back out, eat more damage. Because it's burnt, it's not getting any health back, so it's slowly whittling down. I come in with Mega Mawile here, expecting either a Flip Turn or what just happened, which was a Toxic. Really unfortunate for the Blastoise. Nothing happens there. It Scalds, catches me by surprise. I didn't think it had that. I thought it'd be something like Ice Beam and Flip Turn. I didn't think it was really in a position to want to 1v1 the Entei all that much, or if it was going to go for more of a Toxic Stall kind of scenario. But he does have Scald. Fortunate to not get burnt by that. Able to get behind a sub. Unfortunately, I can't do a ton with this. I will be able to click Play Rough entirely for free here, and able to pick up the KO on this Blastoise. but my Mawile is now really low on health. He comes back in with the Corviknight again, which I again want to reiterate, I think it's a mistake. I think Mamoswine should be coming in here for all that it's worth. I think Mamoswine pressures a little better here because Corviknight just makes me want to bring in Entei for free because Corviknight just doesn't have a way to deal with that. And so Entei's back in. Entei clicks Sacred Fire. Nice little critical hit. This Entei's pretty busted this game. The Brave Bird from the Corviknight's going to kill itself. Mamoswine comes in. As mentioned earlier, I am outspeeding the Mamoswine by 1 point, so I know I go first with my Sacred Fire. I have a 50% chance of burning with Sacred Fire. I have no reason not to click Sacred Fire here because I force this Mamoswine into clicking a move, and I'm pretty sure it's a Choice Scarf Mamoswine, so I can pretty much lock it in. I do get the burn, which is really, really big for me. It's superpowers, which now doesn't KO because of the burn, which is very unfortunate for him. I get Sacred Fire again for free, which now confirms this Mamoswine is gone. Dragapult comes in. I am faster than Dragapult, so I'm going to Sacred Fire. If it tries to Dragon Dance, I'm not too worried about that, especially if I can get the burn, which I crit again. Unfortunate for him, I do get the burn. It is not a setup set. It's a Dragon Dance set, which is fine by me. Or not Dragon Dance. It looks to be a Specs set, which doesn't break Florges, it doesn't break Umbreon. Like I said, Dragapult really doesn't have a way of being effective in this match because by the point that Florges and Umbreon are gone on my side of the field, he's already won that game. I don't think I'm in a position to win that game if I've lost my two best defensive pieces. So the amount of utility that Dragonite provides when it doesn't have a way of dealing with my two defensive pieces is very, very minimal. I don't think Dragapult pressures me all that well. I don't think it's able to. I think it's just mostly dead weight in this matchup, and he wasn't even able to bring it in until the end game because he had to, just because it just had no way to inflict pressure. And outside of those two, I still had Scarf Entei, which would go faster, and it did. It got an extra burn on there, which was nice. I have Sucker Punch on the Mawile, which will easily one-hit KO it. I have my Landorus, which just needs a rock polish to go faster, and then the earthquake's doing tons of damage to it. So there just wasn't a lot for Dragapult to do in this matchup. It just was really shut down. I don't know that he had a lot of other great options to work with. I mean, Zeraora runs into similar problems where it can't really deal with Landorus, it can't really deal with Umbreon super well, and so he just finds the same kind of problems again. All in all, really, really happy with this performance here. I was able to get good utility out of the Entei. I expected Landorus would have a really big impact this week. Unfortunately, it never even left its Pokeball. I was really excited to try that Smackdown set with Earthquake just because he had very limited answers to it. But I'm content with how things played out. Mega Mawile continues to be effective at picking up necessary KOs. It got two really important ones this match on the Slurpuff and the Blastoise. Entei continues to be a really strong offensive piece. I need to get better at using my Landorus and finding windows for it. But all in all, really content with how this season is now progressing. I moved to 2-1. I look to try to move to 3-1 in my next match and really get a strong standing for playoffs. Because at 3-1, I'd be in much more control of things like one of the top two seeds. I believe it might be a league where top two seeds get a bye, or just strong week one matchups in playoffs. Either way, something I want to aim for, and I think I'm in a position to do so now. So I think I figured this team out mostly. I've figured out how to utilize some of the pieces I want to utilize. I've gotten most of them to see the field at this point. I believe there's only a couple of unused ones left. Reggie Drago hasn't seen the field yet, but he just threatens week to week to be a really, really concerning thing opponents have to prep for. And it makes it really hard to leave your fairy at home because the 1 week you leave your fairy at home is the 1 week Reggie Drago shows up and just clicks Dragon Energy for a bunch of kills with a scarf on it, and that's game over. Trapinch may or may not see the field this season. It really is going to depend on whether the matchup shows up for Trapinch to be effective. I can't force it into a team build if it doesn't make sense. So I haven't seen that yet. I'll keep an eye out for it. It'd be really fun to try to make that trap set work once to get a fun first impression kill. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for more videos.